Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the In the Bullseye podcast. I'm voice of the Bulls, Paul Peck, along with Brad Ryder from the UB Football radio broadcast, and, of course, UB Football head coach Pete Lembo. We are at Wingnuts, just across campus, across the 290 from the UB North campus, a great corporate sponsor of UB Athletics and also some of the best wings in Western New York. So, in the course of the next half hour, Pete, we're going to talk a little football. We're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk some wings, maybe, and I know Brad will have some stuff that you and I are not prepared to talk about, but we better be prepared to talk about it. So that's the goal here. You ready? You ready for any and all of that?
Absolutely. Fair enough. It's great to be back here at Wingnuts. There's such good people. There's such great sponsors, and our players love coming over here. The coaches, they were still meeting as I left to come over, and they're all talking about, hey, can you bring me back some? So it's a popular favorite among the UB football family. There's no doubt about that.
All right, well, part of the reason why we have the ability to do this here with Pete is it's bye week for the UB Bulls. They are off this coming weekend. Their next game will be here at home, and it's going to be a big one on October 12th against the Toledo Rockets. That's a noon kickoff. So I guess, Pete, would start this off a little bit by how do you use this week off, not only for your players, for practice purposes, but for maybe within the coaching staff, a little self-scouting. What are some of the things that you will use this extra time that you don't normally get?
Yeah, you touched on a lot of it already. You're absolutely right. First and foremost, you want to take a hard look at everything you've done over the first 5 weeks. What's gone well? What do you need to tweak? What are some things that maybe aren't trending the way you want them to? What you see in yourself is also what your upcoming opponents are going to see. So it's really important that you take a really thorough look at everything because that's exactly what people are game planning against and looking to attack in some way, shape, or form. Developing the players is something that we constantly do, and it especially ratchets up during a bye week where you can build in some extra time, get those guys that are 2s and 3s a little bit extra work, and then some of the players like the Red Murdochs and the Sean Dolaks who have played a lot of football already through 5 games, it's a good opportunity to scale things back a little bit for them. They're still practicing, but maybe not taking as many reps as they might take during a normal game week when you know you don't have the same sense of urgency to get those guys ready. And then some of those younger players that you're hoping to bring along that maybe can help you in some way, shape, or form as you hit the second half of the season here. It's a great opportunity to let those guys compete, whether it be offense, defense, special teams drills. And then later this week, our assistant coaches will get out on the road recruiting, which is very important. We've taken a little bit of time during some of these away games to go see guys that are committed to us play on a Friday night. Now we'll have 2 really good solid days to get the staff out to see games on Friday night or even Saturday, travel some on Thursday to get in position to make productive visits here at the end of the week. So there's a lot going on, and then we've got to come back and get back in there on Sunday and get ready for game week against Toledo. But it's nice to have a little bit of lead time to start looking at some film on them and hopefully have a little bit of extra time to get a little bit more thorough than you would in a regular game week.
The self-scouting that you mentioned is very interesting to me. Is that something that you have the ability to do more during this week, or is that something you can't do at all while you're getting ready for a game?
So we try to do some of it every week, but now that you have 5 games under your belt, there's a little bit more data to really look at there, number one. And number two, you know, there's only so many hours in the day. And when you're in a regular game week, you know, you're peeking at that stuff. But this week gives you a chance to evaluate it a little bit more thoroughly and get a little, as they say, deeper in the weeds on it. So it's important to come out of this week and have a really good sense of what you look like to somebody else in all 3 phases.
You know, a quick glance at the Mid-American Conference standings certainly, shows your team overall is 3-2, 1-0 in the conference. There's only one other team in the MAC at Eastern Michigan that has more than 3 wins. You are tied at the moment with everybody else in the MAC that is 1-0. So the reason I bring that up is give me a sense of 5 games in the state of the program, and I think the follow-up follow-up question that I have is, has any of this happened quicker than maybe you might have thought it would under the circumstances of you being new, the coaching staff being new, and a bunch of the players being new?
Sure. Well, I guess I'll answer the last part first. I expect to go in and win every game.
Sure.
That's why you play the games. You prepare to win, and you expect to execute to a level where you win those games. Now, that being said, there are a lot of contributing factors. We started this thing off on January 22nd, and it's been a lot of moving parts and a lot of things coming together in a relatively short period of time. We've said all along that morale has been good, and guys have been on board with the culture and the expectations, and I think that's been a big part of some of this early success that we've had. But when it comes to sort of the conference standings and where everything's at this point, I think it's so critical that you're taking it day by day and week by week. Records don't mean a whole lot at this point because people have played tremendously different schedules at this point in the league, and you may have some of the better teams in the conference that are sitting there with some of the worst records because they've played really challenging out-of-conference schedules, and then some other people maybe haven't played as challenging of a schedule. I think we're probably sitting here at a point where our schedule, I think, is probably about where a team like ours schedule should be. You're playing one at the time, top 10, just outside the top 10 type opponent right now with Missouri, and let's face it, there are financial benefits to doing something like that for a FBS program like ours. And then we've played a really good group of 5 team in UConn that I think will go on and have a very, very successful season. We played a good FCS team. We played UMass, which is at our level, and Northern, one of the better teams in our league. So we've played a very kind of fair and balanced type schedule up until this point, and sort of have a sense of where we're at, where maybe some other teams in our league, there's still some questions to answer because their schedule's been so heavy early on.
I know you guys put the work in to get that win at Northern, but does it almost feel like you're starting the conference schedule 1-0, and it's like, it seems so long ago. It was only 2 weeks, but 3, I guess, once you factor in the bye week, and now you get into the meat of the schedule, and you're already sitting at 1-0. It feels there's like a dichotomy there that I'm trying to process.
Yeah, no, there's no question. You'd much rather be 1-0 in the league than 0-1 in the league, and now you know that every game moving forward is basically a championship game, right? Because it has the same amount of weight as that Northern win. The Northern win looks great because they were nationally ranked, and we know they're a blue blood program in our conference, and they'll probably go on to a very successful season. But every single one of these upcoming 7 games has the same amount of weight to it.
You mentioned Dolak and Murdoch, Sean Dolak and Khalil Murdoch, and I feel like, as we dive into a little bit of the way your defense has played this year, that seems like the very logical place to start. Just a couple of numbers for everybody out there watching. Sean leads the country in tackles. Oh, by the way, Red is 8th in the country in tackles. Sean is 3rd in the country in tackles for loss. Red is 4th in the country in tackles for loss. I want you to give us and everybody else a sense of the level that those two guys are playing at now, and how, at least to us, amazing it is. We're always hesitant to compare any players to a certain linebacker that played here years ago, but I don't think it's unfair to say those guys are playing in some ways at that same kind of level.
I do think they're both playing at an all-conference type level, and we've talked before about the amount of preparation those guys put in, the way they practice during the week, the extra work that they put in, coming in to watch video on off days, sticking around after. Sometimes I'll pop my head in the defensive staff meetings, and those guys are sitting in there watching video with the defensive coaches. So their level of dedication and preparation is extremely high. And so they go out there and can play with a lot of confidence. But it's somewhat funny to me when Sean went in the transfer portal the second time to eventually come back from Utah State. I remember Joe Bowen having a conversation with him, and Joe has done a great job leading our defense so far. He's mature beyond his years. But I remember him saying something to Sean about the amount of tackles he was going to have in this system if he chose to come back. And that wasn't just recruiting talk. You know, that was the truth. This is a linebacker-friendly defense, and both of those guys have fully taken advantage of it and had very productive years.
All right, perfect. That leads into a question I have for you, because I know you care about data, you care about information. What stat do you hear people talk about and you think you don't even know what you're talking about? Like, you could have there said, yeah, our defense is designed for Sean Dolak to make all the tackles. That's why he's leading the nation. Is there anything to that? Is there anything to a number, completion percentage for a quarterback, whatever it is? Is there a number that you hear, and if somebody is stressing it, you think they don't know what they're talking about?
Yeah, I think you see that from time to time. We get a lot of analytics data, and the analytics guys are very quick to point out when it's a TV game and the announcer says one thing, but the analytics say something else. They're very quick in their weekend wrap-up notes for us to point those things out. I think it makes them feel better about the money we're spending for their service. But there's definitely some truth to that. Turnovers are a big deal in the outcome of games. Explosive plays are a big deal in the outcome of games. And if you look at the games we've won, now, we've done a pretty good job with turnovers overall. Even with some of our ups and downs offensively, the thing we have not done is turn the ball over a bunch. I think we're one of 3 teams in the league right now that's plus in turnovers. And we've done a decent job up until last week of generating some turnovers. I think that's a big deal. And you can look at completion percentages for quarterbacks and things like that, but a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over and leads his team in that fashion it's important. Explosive plays are a big deal, and the UConn game was the first time, other than the Missouri game, where we were way behind in explosives, and we had a chance to create some. We didn't do a very good job of preventing them, where we have done a nice job up until that point defensively, even in the Missouri game, of limiting some of those explosives. So those are 2 sort of team stats that I think anytime you hear somebody talk about turnovers and explosive plays, that is 1A and 1B to the outcome of games.
It's funny, Brad, what you asked him, because I just saw something today, and it was related to the NFL, but I think, Pete, you'll say it applies to college as well, too. Through the first, 4 weeks of the NFL, completion percentage is at its highest level, and passing yards are at one of its lowest levels. It's how the game has changed, and college isn't all that much different, is it, Pete?
It isn't. The NFL, I think, in recent years, has started to look a little bit more like college football with some of the offensive creativity. For many years, NFL offenses were NFL offenses, and college offenses were, much more diverse. And now the 2 are starting to come a little bit closer together. And so whether it's some quarterback run game or it's some of the perimeter throws, the quicker throws, I think you're seeing the 2 levels coming closer together. And, of course, for us, with NIL and the transfer portal, the NFL guys are saying, yeah, college football's coming a lot closer to the NFL because, they're not really amateurs anymore, and guys are transferring more frequently. So, everything's sort of blending together over time, I guess.
Do you have to think about transfer portal this time of year, or is that strictly an off-season thing?
No, we're certainly thinking about it, and more so from a bigger picture of, okay, what needs do we have where high school recruiting may not be able to solve that problem in more of the short term. We're still going to be primarily focused on high school recruiting. Love our verbal commitments that we have for the class of 2025. I think we're up to 16 now, and just really excited about those guys. We're in constant contact with them. But there are always going to be some spots where you say, if we could get a transfer here and here and here selectively, and a lot of it has to do with who you're going to be graduating after the season. Yeah, there may be an unexpected move here or there that you always have to be prepared for, but mostly it's who are the seniors that are exhausting eligibility that we're losing, and where are some of those key spots where we might be young and you'd love to bring in a veteran guy who's played some football, even if it's at the FCS level, to come in and give you a little bit of an infusion of experience.
He is Pete Lembo, UB football head coach. My name is Paul Peck. That's Brad Ryder. This is the In the Bullseye podcast. We're at the Wingnuts location here in Amherst, right on Millersport Highway, hanging out here. I'm sure there will be wings that will appear here at some point very soon. None of us are going to complain, though. Has there been one particular part of your team, whether it's a player, whether it's a part of the strategy, that's been maybe your most pleasant surprise so far this season?
I would say, yeah, I could pick a guy. Solomon Brown at safety. He was out in the spring, so he was really an unknown. But the one thing you knew in the spring, just his demeanor, even though he was injured and unable to participate, he was very focused in meetings. He brought a maturity about him. You could tell he was a very focused guy. And then as he started working out with the team more actively and got cleared over the summer, there was an optimism about what this guy might bring. But, of course, there's no pads on at that time, so you really don't know until late July rolls around and you start, running around with helmet and shoulder pads on, what he could actually do. And then it became pretty apparent, okay, if this guy can stay healthy, he's going to be a factor on our defense. And another guy, much like Red and Sean, love the way he prepares, love his maturity, love his focus. And he's been a good player. And unless he's gotten banged up, which unfortunately he did early in the game against UConn, and he'll be fine long term, but he's barely come off the field, and he's definitely been a pleasant surprise at safety for sure.
Yeah, that's great. I think your safety play has had a lot to do with preventing those explosive plays that you mentioned as well, too. Because
and he's
those
from
guys,
Key Largo, Florida.
Wow.
So that's the Tampa area, right?
Just playing to the crowd here, aren't you?
And if you're a guy that loves the '80s like me, Irene Cara is from Key Largo, Florida. Now I'm not a
Flashdance.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
That seems like an invitation to get into my game.
Oh, it
here.
absolutely is.
All right, so here's the deal, Pete. We don't know each other.
Two famous people now from Key Largo, Florida.
We don't know each other especially well, but I'm a trivia guy. I'm very into the trivia thing. So when I knew I was going to be sitting here with Pete and Paul, I came up with a little trivia game. We're going to call it Peter, Paul, or Mary.
Okay.
So rather than have you guys go against each other, I'll let you work together as a team.
Along comes Mary.
All right. Yeah.
I'll let you
There's
work
something
together
about Mary.
as a team. For example, if I were to say the all-time hits leader in Major League Baseball who passed away yesterday,
I'm brokenhearted about it.
we would know that is, of course,
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose.
Right.
So, and I realized that Pete had issues. We all, to some degree, have issues. I have plenty. But growing up as a kid in the 70s and the 80s, and what we found out later and some of the things that were going on aside, it's hard to find a better example of how to actually play the game that you're playing than how that guy played it.
He was the Tasmanian devil of Major League Baseball, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was always going 25 miles an hour more than anyone else.
Well, when you're 6 years old and your first introduction to him is that guy's been winning World Series, and they call him Charlie Hustle. Like, all right, I respect that. So it's tough for that to go away.
Yeah.
And
so I was a Yankees fan growing up on Staten Island. My dad's a New York City cop, and we were Yankees fans. But, you always had that sort of secondary team that for whatever reason you just felt a connection with. And for me, that was the Big Red Machine. And I think a lot of it was they were sort of a blue-collar team, and we were a blue-collar family. And just the way those guys played, led by Rose, just from starting to watch baseball in the mid to late 70s I just thought the world of that team led by Rose. And since then, I've read books and watched documentaries on them, and just fabulous stuff. And I don't mean to hold up the rest of your questions.
You're fine. I was told we're never getting through 20. We haven't even gotten to one yet, Pete, so I believe.
Yeah,
and now we're weirdly distracted.
Yeah, I'll just say this. And I actually watched a documentary on Rose that was filmed only a couple of years ago.
That the multi-part series that was on HBO?
Yes.
Yeah, it was very, very good.
Yes, and I couldn't help but think, and my dad felt the same way, I couldn't help but think, if somebody as beloved as, say, a Johnny Bench, universally beloved guy, good guy, all of those things, just role model type guy, if it came out perhaps that he was gambling, maybe somebody would have found a way at some point to forgive him. But somebody like Pete Rose was so polarizing. And if he wasn't on your team, let's face it, you probably despise the guy. So, it's just like anything else in life. If you're that guy that is despised by so many, you're probably not going to get cut a break, even if it's when you're 80 years old and really all you want to do is just, get yourself in that Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So
by definition, the lifetime ban ended yesterday, right?
Yes, it did.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
There's time. All right.
Who knows?
Question number 1. Peter, Paul, or Mary? Winningest coach in college football history named Peter, Paul, or Mary?
Oh, it's got to be, I'm thinking Paul. I'm thinking Paul.
Is it the Navy head, the ex-Navy head coach? Paul Johnson?
Well, Paul Johnson had a heck of a run at...
This guy might be better known by his nickname.
Okay.
Oh,
Bear Bryant. How about Paul Bear Bryant?
Bear Bryant.
Very good.
1 point for Pete.
Okay.
Still active NBA point guard drafted by the New Orleans Hornets in 2005.
Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is correct.
Yeah, there's no way I would have got that one.
That's okay.
I was hoping you were going to say something about Pete Maravich.
I still might.
Talking about
You
Pete
might.
Rose.
I still might. There's a
we should
lot
talk
going on
about
here.
Pete Maravich.
There's a lot of Pete's, there's a lot of Paul's, there's a lot of Marys. All right, this one's going to be more of a Paul thing, I think. 6'7" tight end from Wabash College, drafted by the Seattle Seahawks in 1982.
Yeah,
I know it. Do you know it?
He played for the Panthers.
He did
Yes,
play
he
for the
did.
Panthers.
Yeah, I could picture him.
I'm going to give Pete, I know the answer, but I'm going to give Pete another couple seconds to see if he
It's
can't
not
pull it.
Mary.
It's not Mary.
Because Wabash is an all-male school, so
right,
we know it can't be Mary.
that's how we know that the 6'7"
Pete,
tight end
only
is
Pete
not Mary.
would know that. I know it's Pete Metzlar's. Only you would
Pete
know
Metzlar's, yeah.
that it was
Metzlar.
that his
he's
school that he went
He's coaching
to.
high school football in Charlotte right
Yes.
now.
All right, we only got 2 more sports ones, and then we'll get to real life. By real life, I don't know what I mean. President of the Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee from 1980 to 84, and Major League Baseball commissioner from 84 to 89. Peter, Paul, or Mary?
I know this.
All right, go ahead.
Peter Uberoff.
Peter Uberoff
Very
is the
good.
correct
Very
answer.
good.
Last sports one. I don't know who I want to get this one right. The only player on the current UB football roster named Peter, Paul, or Mary.
Oh, this is all him.
116. You put me on the spot. You're going to get it.
I should. Yeah.
He's a freshman offensive lineman from Crown Point, Indiana.
Oh, that's all you now.
There you go.
That you got to know that. I know you know that. I don't.
Yeah, it's Mr. Clark.
Paul Clark.
And he's got a twin brother, Will.
Mary?
No, not Mary. Maybe there's triplets, but I only know the 2 of them.
All right.
Is the twin brother on scholarship
Oh, yes.
as well?
Yes.
You got them both on
Yeah.
here.
Yep. Defensive
You know,
end
the
and
last
center.
time we had twins worked out pretty good around here.
Okay.
That would be James and Jarrett.
All right.
Yes.
The Pattersons.
Yes.
Yes.
I was just thinking Ladarius and Khalil are not the same age.
Yeah.
All right,
and the Clarks are 2 wonderful kids.
That's
Absolutely
awesome.
wonderful kids.
All right. We're out of the sports realm
Okay.
and into, well, actually, this one, there's a little sports tie. Another Major League Baseball thing. Oscar-nominated actor whose father was commissioner of Major League Baseball for 5 months in 1989. Peter, Paul, or Mary?
He was the commissioner in the midst of the Pete Rose
She
situation.
was.
Oh, shoot. Right out of that documentary.
And prominently acted in a very New York-based TV series recently. Trying to feed these to you, Pete,
Yeah,
as best
go ahead,
I can.
go ahead.
That would be Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti.
Oh, wow.
And A. Bartlett Giamatti.
From Billions.
Billions.
Yeah.
There you
Billions.
go.
Yeah.
All right. 4-time Emmy Award-winning 4'5" actor from Game of Thrones?
I'm not a Game of Thrones.
Me neither. I hate it.
I thought you were talking about like Danny DeVito or something.
Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage is
Yes.
correct. All right, Peter, Paul, or Mary? Married to actor Ted Danson since 1995.
Oh, Mary Steenburgen.
Mary
you
Steenburgen.
go.
Yeah.
I knew we were going to get a Mary one here sooner or later.
John Fuller predicted you would start rattling off Mary Steenburgen movies that are your favorites, but you don't have to do it. We're going to
No,
move on.
I do remember her appearing on
Step Brothers.
No, I was thinking
Yeah.
Larry David.
Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Curb Your Enthusiasm. What didn't Ted Danson and she
Oh, yeah.
show up on
Yeah.
several episodes of that?
They would always be annoyed by Larry, shockingly.
All right, unbelievable how that
We're
happened.
going to music. Singer-songwriter, who was the original lead singer for Genesis.
Oh.
Before Phil Collins, who wouldn't qualify
Peter
here.
Gabriel?
Peter Gabriel
Peter
is the correct
Gabriel.
answer because he's a Peter. Giant lumberjack of American and Canadian folklore.
Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan, that was good. British actor.
Beginning
known,
of The Sopranos has a giant Paul Bunyan thing
Yes.
in the open there, right?
British actor known for Dr. Strangelove, being there, and 5
Peter
films
Sellers.
in the Pink Panther series.
Pink Panther.
Peter Sellers.
Dr. Strangelove is one of my favorites. He plays 3 or 4 different parts in the movie.
I watched that in a college class, and it wasn't even a film class. I don't remember what it was or why we did that, but I can picture.
That was the guy riding the missile at the
Yes.
end, right?
Yes.
Slim Pickens.
Slim
Slim
Pickens from Blazing Saddles fame.
Yes.
You want to keep going?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
All right. Peter, Paul, or Mary? Actress. It makes me Mary in this scenario, though. If we got Peter and Paul, and I'm. Oh, well. Actress who played Mary Richards on a CBS sitcom from 1970 to 79.
Mary Tyler Moore.
Mary Tyler Moore is
Classic.
correct. Pete's good at this.
Legendary.
All right, here we go. This is in quotes. Symphonic Tale for Children, composed by Sergei Prokofiev in 1936. Peter, Paul, or Mary?
Peter Rabbit?
No, but we're heading in the right direction here.
Mary, quite contrary.
No, Peter was good. Wrong animal.
Cottontail.
No, that's still a rabbit.
That's still right. Yes, it is.
All right, you're going to have
Peter and the Wolf. Peter and the Wolf. is what we were looking
Okay.
for. Czech-born supermodel who married Rick Ocasek of the Cars.
Oh, Paula Petrova.
I'm gonna allow it. Paulina Porizkova.
Okay.
I think
Thank
you said the same thing, right? We'd give him that.
Yeah.
Cars, one of my favorite bands from
Absolutely.
Boston.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Student at Midtown School of Science and Technology bitten by a radioactive spider.
That's got to be Spider-Man.
Eventually.
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker is right. Guitarist and principal songwriter from The Who.
Pete Townsend.
Pete Townsend. Magical English nanny, played by Julie Andrews in a 1964 Disney film.
Oh, I can picture
Mary
it.
Poppins.
Mary Poppins is correct. We've only got 3 left here. Said we
Spoonful
wouldn't
of
get
sugar,
through
right?
We're
Isn't that
gonna
the
get
Spoonful
through-
of Sugar
We're
song?
going to get through
10.
20.
We're whipping
Here we
right
go.
through. Which of Peter, Paul, and Mary, which was not part of a Run DMC song title from either 1986's Raising Hell or 1988's Tougher Than Leather? I did that one for myself.
I know
guys
you
don't
did.
even have to answer
I know
it
you did.
Because I was going to do which one is the song title, but then I realized both Peter and Mary are available. Peter Piper is on Raising Hell, and Mary, Why You Buggin', is on Tougher Than Leather. We'll skip that.
Okay.
Nervous Catholic schoolgirl, played by Molly Shannon on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, boy. Oh. I can remember I remember the skit.
Yep.
I remember this because she's always bouncing around the set.
I
right?
will tell you that it is not Peter or Paul. So let's start with that. Mary Catherine Gallagher
Okay.
is the answer. And the final one I have for today. Actor who created and starred as Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, shoot.
That's a Paul, I think.
That's a Paul. That is Paul Rubens.
It's Paul Rubens.
Paul Rubens.
Congratulations on your
Impressive.
success.
We did okay, didn't
in the
we?
first ever
Yeah.
edition
Okay.
of the Peter, Paul, or Mary trivia.
Yeah, we did okay.
all
How
I
about
got.
that? You got anything for us? You got some trivia to throw at us? In that in
me?
that vast amount of knowledge that you have, that you've already showed us on a weekly basis.
What's your specialty? We obviously football, and then what's number 2 on the Lembo list of things that fill up your brain?
Well, I'm kind of like Cliff Clavin 2.0 with some of this pop culture stuff.
Okay.
We know 80s
I guess
and 90s
when you
some
were
movies.
thinking about Peter, I was thinking about Peter Fonda in Easy Rider.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. He crossed my.
I was thinking that might be coming our way.
He was on my list. But 20 seemed like a lot.
Right.
And I thought we probably want to stop after that.
Right. I feel like 80s movies are like your 70s and 80s movies, but 80s movies are really your wheelhouse.
Yeah, let's talk about your acting.
My acting?
Your acting. These skits I've seen of you acting out Caddyshack and the things. What's happening? Who's leading the charge on this whole thing? What's going on?
I would just say that, I have a marketing degree, and every once in a while I feel the need to use it, which can sometimes drive people crazy because they probably say, just why don't you go over there and coach football? But I do think we have a lot of work to do in terms of promoting our program to our constituents and would-be, should-be, could-be constituents. And I think the more that we can let people in and feel like they're getting to know us and that we're real people, there's not like some wall built up around the Murchie football complex that's like Fort Knox, but no, we want to be accessible and we want people to get to know us on a personal level, whether it's me or the players or the assistant coaches, the support staff. The more we can do that stuff, I think that sort of facilitates that grassroots type effort that we want. And we want to see people feel like they've gotten to know us and that we're real, and that when they're sitting there in the stands, it's not just somebody with a headset on or somebody with a helmet on.
Do you feel it working? Because I do, but I've been here a lot longer than you have. Can you sense the community feeling what you're putting out there?
I think it's trending in the right direction and slowly moving. And not that I expected it to be, some big waterfall overnight. But I'll give you one example. I was at a restaurant the other night and ran into one of our donors. Really good donor, great guy, and he had a lady friend with him, his significant other, or whatever you want to call it, and she admitted that she grew up here, had never cared whatsoever about UB athletics, UB football, but since she's gotten to know me and he took her to a game, and now she's all in, and she said, I was out of town, when you guys were playing at Northern Illinois, and I found myself checking the scores and following the game and being really excited. And when it was over, I was all fired up, and she's basically saying, I'm in. I'm in. And that was just one little random example of, the efforts that we've made over the last several months, building a relationship with this person and getting to know her, and my wife getting to know her, and now she's following our team. So, that's how it all starts.
My favorite thing to hear is two people that I don't know talking about UB football who don't know that I'm there. Like, people will always talk to me about it. They'll always talk to you guys about it. But overhearing in the wild that people are talking about it, showing up at Little League Baseball and everybody coming to me to talk about what just happened at Northern Illinois. That's the cool part for me. That's what I enjoy. All
right, we're going to wrap this up. I was going to ask you, what you've enjoyed the most about getting used to being a Western New Yorker, and I'm going to slide this here so you can start to answer with your senses here, because Wingnuts folks have taken care of us here, but go ahead.
I mean, look at this. First of all, just what a beautiful sight it is. But coming in here, so I parked outside, and that smell. It's like Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now, standing on the beach, smelling the napalm.
I love the smell of Wingnuts in the afternoon.
Yeah, and all I could think was that smell, that smell of Wingnuts. It smells like victory.
It smells like victory. It couldn't be a better way to wrap this up. Pete, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you joining us here. We have all been incredibly excited to the start of the season, and I know there's a lot more good stuff coming down the road that we're going to get excited about. We thank you for tuning in to get a little bit of the football side and the knowledge side and the personality personality side of Pete. Brad, an amazing job as always, taking us purposefully off track, which is
great.
What I do.
Which is
I even made
great.
stickers. I made stickers.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So, Pete, thank you so much.
Above and beyond.
Thanks so much for the time. Good luck for the rest of the season. We thank you for joining us on this In the Bullseye podcast from here at Wingnuts. We're going to let Pete go, and before we wrap up, we're going to bring in the chief Wingnuts guy, and that's Chris Cavalieri, to talk a little bit about the restaurant. So, Pete, thank you so much, and good luck down the stretch here.
Okay, guys.
You
My
got
pleasure.
it. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right.
All right, we're going to wrap things up here at Wingnuts on this In the Bullseye podcast by bringing Chris Cavalieri from Wingnuts. So we were cruising along with a great interview, and they dropped these in front of us, and we were all completely and totally distracted.
You're like, it's time to eat, right?
It is time to eat, yes. True credit to Pete Lembo for fighting through while these were just inches away from him. Chris, tell us a little bit about how things are going here at the restaurant and how much of a success you guys have had and how well received you've been here in the UB area and Western New York as a whole.
Absolutely, yeah. We've been here since December. Things have been going excellent. We finally have a full football season, so we're a couple games into the season right now for UB games, Bills games, Sabres coming up. It's just been really, really going well. A lot of banquets. Everything with UB has been a great connection. Pete, all of you guys, Jason Martin, and the whole team. It's been really great to work with you guys. Great collaboration. Plan to be here for a couple decades, so really looking forward to what the future holds. And honestly, I love seeing the football team really turn a leaf here. Sean Dolak, a lot of the guys on the team, huge contributors. I think looking at last year to this year, I mean, it's night and day. The staff, the coaching, the team, the recruitment, just the energy you can feel at the games. I think they're really, really turning things in a positive direction, and happy to have you guys.
What is the Wingnuts origin story? I heard about you before I tried the food, and then you were here, and I know the food was out there, but there wasn't the location yet. I haven't been. I heard how great it was, and it's weird, being from Buffalo, to see a new place pop in and immediately catapult itself into the conversation, even for the best. So how did this all come together?
So Ed and Alicia, they're the other creators. They started it back in 2005. They just did it for their church and just off-site caterings. They did that for about 12 years. And then 2017, they opened inside the Knights of Columbus. And it was just the two of them running it. They did maybe 500 to 1,000 wings a day. Things were going well for them. They were slowly scaling, but kind of in that small little pocket where they can only service about 60 to 100 customers a day. About 2021, Barstool Sports came in.
Yep.
They came to Buffalo, and it was Portnoy, PFT, and Big Cat, and they're like, where's the best place for chicken wings? And everyone's like, you got to go to Wingnuts. It's this hole-in-the-wall place in the Knights of Columbus. So they went. They were absolutely blown away, wrote in their book, and they said, can we come back the next day and do a podcast here? And little did Ed and Alicia know that podcast reaches like tens of millions of people, right? So after the podcast,
I'm assuming Ed wasn't a big Barstool sports guy at the moment, was he?
They weren't too much techie. But after that, I mean, their phone literally exploded. They had to unplug it. You had to do Facebook Messenger orders. And for the next 2 years, they just were killing it. I mean, they were selling out of wings every single day. Early 2022 happened. They, just like any other customer, I was just a customer of theirs for years, went to place an order. They said they were in poor health. They weren't sure if they were going to reopen. I told my partner, AJ, these are the best wings I've ever had in my life. We got to try and work a deal out with them. He goes, I've been cooking for 20 years. There's no way these wings are better than anything I ate. He sat down, he ate things with me, and he's like, I think this is the best wings I've ever had in my life. He goes, we got to make this happen. So we partnered with them in the latter part of summer of 2022, going on about 2.5 years now, and things are going awesome. We're opening a second spot coming up here in about 8 weeks out by the airport, and still have our goal of 50 in 5 years. So we have some really big expansion plans up and down the East Coast. We have a lot of opportunity, but like any business.
Brad and I have a goal of 50 in the next 5 minutes.
There you go, right, yeah. So big plans, but that's the Wingnuts story.
The Barstool thing is why I asked, because the first I ever heard it, I was listening to that podcast, and they're live from a wing place in Buffalo I've never heard of, talking about how great it is. I'm like, I got to get to the bottom of this. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. It doesn't pass the test. But now, thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, they started on that little hole in the wall, and just to kind of finish the story, like they were, selling 1,000 wings a day, and they were thrilled by it. We sell 1,000 by noon, so it's it's really shows how the success and how much we're growing.
And I've said this to Ed before, and Brad sort of alluded to it. Like everybody in this town does wings so well, right? And there are 100 places that you can go to where they are they'll be the best wings you've ever eaten. But what you guys have done was break through just being another place where the wing, like, oh no, you got to go there now. Well, wait, I got my 6 places I normally go. No, you got to go there. That's hard to do. Why do you think it worked that way?
I think the biggest differentiator we have is we have a very unique coating. It's no surprise we have giant wings. We're using jumbo wings. We sort the wings, right? So you're not going to get any broken bone wings. You're not going to get really small wings. Those wings, we cook them. We rip the meat off. We put them in the chicken wing dip, chicken wing soup, chicken wing log. So what you're getting is a premium product every single time. All of our sauces are made scratch, homemade, along with our blue cheese. So we feel like everyone's kind of like right here, right? We're just a different wing. We're up here. We don't think we really have a competitor that really, qualifies against us. We're just in a different category.
Yeah, well, they are. And if you haven't tasted them, please come out and do, and I think you will agree. Brad, because we're talking about food, you get the last word here.
I agree completely. This is the second time I've been here, and both times I didn't eat anything at all today, and I was hungry all day. But I was like,
I
was just like, if I put anything in my system right now, it's going to cut down on my wing intake, and I can't do that to myself. So, I'm looking forward to turning this camera off and getting rolling, because the real work is about to begin.
That's my cue to wrap it up. Chris, congratulations on all the success. Thank you for your support of UB Athletics, and this is the place to be before, after the UB games. Got a big one coming up on the 12th against Toledo. It's the place to come celebrate what would be a very, very significant Bulls win, and I know you'll have the wings ready to go. Chris, thanks for everything you've done, and we thank Chris Cavallari and the folks here at Wingnuts, and of course Pete Lembo for joining us here on this edition of the In the Bullseye podcast.